mean from a national standpoint? Two things are clear. This will be a referendum of sorts for the Modi government, and Nitish Kumar and Lalu Prasad Yadav have their political careers at stake. Joining us now, N. Ram, the chairman of the Hindu group, Girish Kuber, editor of Satta, senior journalist and columnist Swapan Dasgupta, and our very own Bhupendra Choubey joining us from Patna. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us. Bhupen, if I can come to you, in that report that we just played out, and you, Maria, and your team out there speaking to voters today, and the call for Parivartan, the question now is, what does Parivartan mean for the state of Bihar?
Yeah, that's the whole question. What exactly is the definition of Parivartan? Now, if you were speaking to representatives of the JDU, they are looking at this 8% surge within the voting that has been witnessed today as a vote for Nitish Kumar. Conventional political wisdom would suggest that whenever there is a high voting percentage, it usually is against the incumbent government. So, are people voting for the Vikas model of Nitish Kumar? Are people voting for the Vikas model of Narendra Modi? Where exactly this sting operation, which has suddenly emerged on the eve of polling, how does that impact the model of Vikas which is being hyped up by Nitish Kumar? This Bihar election is a fascinating election for multiple reasons, Shireen. One of those being that while all parties are talking about development, this is an election which is not being fought on development, and people are not necessarily looking at development as an issue. The issues which are at play, frankly, are caste, religion, polarization. Just look at the commentary which is being offered by leaders on all sides, whether it's the Grand Secular Alliance or it's the NDA. Cow, beef, all kinds of things which are being talked about. So where exactly is development related to this? I'm not quite sure on that.
All right, Bhupen, I'll keep coming back to you. Hang in there. Let me go across to N. Ram, chairman of the Hindu group. Mr. Ram, appreciate you joining us here. Let me ask you first to comment on the turnout figures. Very high turnout, historic, as the Election Commission is calling it, at 57%. A very high turnout for women, outpacing the number of men, coming in at almost 60%. What does this mean? Is this advantage Nitish or is it advantage Narendra Modi?
I think people will say we have no clue unless we have more data on this. I don't think it's worthwhile speculating on which way it will go. Normally a high turnout would mean either a protest vote or a sympathy vote. So we don't know here what's at stake. So I would say that nobody knows.
Nobody knows. Girish Kuber, would you like to take a shot at that? Because the BJP certainly seemed to believe that if it was a high turnout, it would mean advantage BJP. Do you think that that still holds true?
No, I don't think so it will be. Because there are instances where high turnout had showed it's gone in favor of the incumbent government. So it will be a highly risky business to predict which way it will go.
All right, Swapan Dasgupta, this was a stronghold in the 2010 election. 29 seats won by the BJP Nitish alliance at that point in time, of course, the erstwhile alliance then. But, as polls seem to just suggest, some are saying it's neck to neck, some are saying advantage NDA. But do you really believe that it is neck and neck at this point in time? Or do you believe that it is a clear advantage for the NDA, as some polls seem to suggest?
Shireen, what happens is that at this stage of the contest, there are enough undecided voters to make it so that when opinion polls are taken, you get a sense of neck and neck. But what happens is that on the day of polling, there obviously happens a certain degree of advantage on the side which is seen to be slightly ahead, and that translates into quite a decisive advantage when the number of seats are actually calculated. So at this point, any election looks very tight. But in hindsight, we might say, oh, well, it was clear in any case. But it's never clear before the votes are counted. And that's a feature of elections. And I think all the pundits, I don't think anybody is actually trying to contrive an element of drama when they say it's neck and neck, because there is that undecided element which actually votes on the day. I mean, makes up its mind, more or less when they are faced with the machine.
They're absolutely right, and it's a 1 month long election with 5 phases. We're only done with phase 1. But Swapan Dasgupta, let's talk about the Modi factor. The Prime Minister has virtually been carpet bombing Bihar with rallies, but one gets the sense that there is disappointment. There is that promise versus Jumla argument. Let's just take one example of the 15 lakhs per account that was supposed to have come in from the recovery of black money. Do you see this expectation not matching up with reality as being a little bit of a dampener? And also the second question, there is no clear chief ministerial candidate as far as the BJP is concerned, whereas as far as the Grand Alliance goes, there is Nitish Kumar. Is that going to prove to be a disadvantage for the BJP?
Shireen, my take on this election is that, ironically, what we are seeing, at least as far as the public response to the meetings are concerned, is that Modi is popular, but Nitish is also popular in their own different ways. Now what I think is going to happen is both of them, in their own respective ways, face certain disadvantages. For Modi, the issue is, yes, he's the Prime Minister, he has a measure of popularity, there are large expectations from it, maybe some of it unfulfilled, but how will that translate into governance of Bihar? As far as Nitish is concerned, I think there is a sense in which Nitish is seen as a reasonably good administrator, having done very well for the past 8-10 years when he's been in office. But how will that translate when it comes to an alliance with Lalu, his sort of sworn enemy? So both the sides, while they have distinct advantages, are also burdened with certain baggage which they have to face. So whether it's sort of both sides get neutralized or not, I don't know. But remember, the issue is, while both have a measure of anti-incumbency, if Modi is thought to have not delivered on every promise which he made in the general election, Nitish Kumar is also burdened by the fact that his promise of actually ensuring electricity, which he had promised in 2010, that remains unfulfilled. So again, the word Jumla has come into play, but there is an element of Jumla in all elections. The question is, the discerning voters will actually have to separate which are the relevant ones from which are the hyperbolic overstatements which are there during any election campaign.
Ram, let me put that question to you. How are you reading the Modi factor and how that will play out as far as the Bihar elections go? And, as my colleague Shreya Dondial told me a short while ago, the debate is also centered on this issue of Bahari versus Bihari as well.
You see, there's no doubt that in the Lok Sabha election of 2014, there was a Modi wave. There is no question about it. And that accounts for a large part of the 31 seats out of 40 that the BJP and allies won at that point. Today, he's no longer running for Prime Minister. And secondly, there has been a loss of sheen. We don't know to what extent, but we know that it's not the same as when it started. So there's no, and I would go on to say, I would venture to say, there is no Modi wave today, but there is a Modi factor, which still is a plus factor for the BJP. So that's, it can't be the same. And then the arithmetic has changed in favor of the JDU alliance, JDU and allies. So I think, and of course the media, I agree with Swapan about one thing that, people, when journalists, newspapers and television channels say too close to call or neck and neck, it is journalists for, we have no clue. We have no clue about what's going to happen. So they're hedging their bets. The polls are totally, wildly, at variance with one another. So this is an interesting election. But I agree with Swapan that when the votes are counted, including for the reason he gave, I suspect that one or the other will get a majority. It will not be a hung assembly, because there are two main alliances in the fray. Yeah.
That's right, and that was the point that in fact Sandeep Shastri made on the channel with us just a short while ago, that whichever way it swings, it will be a clear vote in one side. But let me come to you, Girish.
Yeah.
You know, as Bhupendra was telling us that that the debate has swung from the development agenda, the development card, which was really what we saw the BJP pushing, the Prime Minister pushing during the 2014 general elections, now down to a very vicious caste and class debate. How do you see that working as far as the arithmetic is concerned, and also the chemistry of the Grand Alliance? Will it deliver on the arithmetic?
I'm sure that's the thing that will work in Bihar. We gave a lot of coverage about the development agenda and all those things. But my experience on the ground and the total kind of a feeling, it says that it was too much of a facade, and facade it created by the media. There was always this agenda, but we thought Modi will bring and the change, and it will be only development agenda. That's not the case. That never was the case, even during that particular election. So the caste and other issues will play major role, and not only in Bihar and the elections from here onwards. Then the next is Punjab, and then Tamil Nadu, and again Uttar Pradesh in 2017. So this is the issue we will have to tackle, and there is too much of emphasis on the development agenda, which will not be the case in the future election.
Absolutely not the case as far as the ground reality is concerned. But Swapan Dasgupta, back to you. Let's for a minute assume that the electoral result does not go in favor of the BJP. Will that further dampen the enthusiasm of the government at the centre to try and push through what was being seen as bold, decisive action, especially as far as the economic agenda is concerned? I mean, things like the GST may get stalled, for instance, even further if the BJP feels like it's lost more political capital. How do you see the electoral result, if it's not in favor of the BJP, playing out at the centre?
Well, I don't know about this. I don't know this question of big ticket reforms. I've never actually been able to understand what it exactly means. At present, I think really the reform which is expected by everyone, which everyone looks forward to with a great deal of hope, etc., which has been dampened because it was thought to be there, is the GST issue. Now, a victory for Modi, I think, will make it relatively easier for him to actually get the GST through in the Rajya Sabha. But a defeat, I think, would mean that the scenes which we saw in Parliament in the previous session are more or less repeated with added embellishments of some other issues, etc., etc. So I think, yes, you're right in saying that this Bihar election is important in the short term, in trying to create the political atmospherics, because a defeat for the BJP will certainly embolden the opposition. They will now calculate, and they are calculating, that if Modi loses, we can transform the Modi government into a lame duck government before even it has completed 2 years. Now, the prospect of that for India is quite horrific, but I think, therefore, the stakes are very high for Modi. You know, it's not merely a question of winning or losing, but it's also a question of winning by how. Even if Modi was to do, if BJP was to do very well, but just narrowly fail to squeak home, that would be an all right thing for it. But an outright defeat would be catastrophic, in my view, for them.
And Ram, the final word to you: would an outright defeat for the BJP in Bihar be catastrophic, as Swapan has just called it?
Yes, it will be, because the message will go out. These guys are not here for 10 years, 4 years, and that's it. That will be the opposition will be emboldened. They would have tasted blood. But let me add that even if the JDU alliance loses, it'll still look better than it was in 2014. So they'll get a lot out of it, and they'll still be emboldened, although not as much as they would with a decisive defeat for the BJP. So either way, I think the JDU alliance has an advantage, unless they are routed, which I don't think anyone is predicting.
Well, all we can say with certainty today is that the voter turnout has been historic at 57%. Beyond that, everything else is in the realm of speculation and will continue to be for the next 1 month. Bhupendra Choubey, Swapan Dasgupta, and Ram, Girish Kuber, appreciate you joining us here on India Business Hour to decode the implications of the Bihar elections. We do have to